sheriff's office in Sumner County is involved with the search for that 15-year-old. I'm just curious, when it goes out in a bolo, and as it is now, it's going on its third day of not finding this child, and the child, in my belief, could still, as an autistic child, be hiding somewhere, still be fearful. You always wonder at what point in the game, the consideration of maybe some type of foul play, which they have not said is the case yet. But do you ever have, if a neighboring county, when this happens, is there any involvement? And I'm sure the police department or the sheriff's office here, are you even aware of this? Would you have any contact with the sheriff there? Like, well, we can keep our eye out here in Davidson County. Have you heard anything at this point on this?
It's a good question. A couple things. One that you would want to know: the birth father of this child works for us in this situation. Now, I don't know the relationship. There's a lot of conversation about that, but he is an officer with us, been here a year or so. That's not information from him coming to us. We understand that that's the case. We always get asked to participate and help in these types of situations. Some version of it. It could be, will you assist in helping? We have 2 staff members who work for us who have, in their private life, they have dogs that search, and so they go out, volunteer their time. They've been up there the whole time helping on their own. But we have to be really careful because it's their private dog. It's not the sheriff's office stuff, but they volunteer and doing that. We have other folks in our special operations response teams who go out and volunteer their time and help. Where it gets a little weird is because, and it's usually through the Office of Emergency Management for Davidson County that's also working with Sumner County. That's how we get connected to it. Where we have some issues is, and this sounds real petty, but sending people who are getting paid to do a job here over into other counties and do it. So it's I hate to say it, it's almost a volunteer situation.
Okay.
Because we don't have the equipment.
But you're kind of a camaraderie, the fraternity. You help each other when you can.
Right.
And they volunteer, I bet. They do so.
Right. And we would even do some where you're on the clock doing it. It just always is a weird deal because what happens if it's Murray County? What happens if you just keep going? And so we've had this conversation. We've had some people up there volunteering. We have some other folks who are kind of in wait to do certain things, but it's just a show of force. It's extra eyes and ears. I mean, we don't have any special skills that would help you in any way, but we usually work through OEM, who is working through OEM out of Sumner County, and I think just like you, it's a scary situation each day that goes by and you don't see something.
And it's interesting you would say this. Our understanding was that the boy's biological parents are separated or no longer married, and I think his mother may have remarried and he may have a stepbrother now along those lines. Just with regard, and that is interesting that he happens to be a deputy, or is he at this point? I can imagine. Have you talked with him? Is he off now helping over there? How is he handling this?
Yeah, I haven't talked to him or about him. It came to me yesterday, the day before, I guess, that the biological father is an officer with us, but and I think he's been here about a year or so. But other than that, I don't know much of the relationship. And again,
would he take time off? Would you give him time off?
Sure. I mean, he and I would assume if again, this is a weird situation because it's not him saying, "Hey, I need off. My son is missing." That's not happened yet that I know of. But and we have 1,000 employees, so it's a little hard and hard for us to even know that. We have a woman who handles our retention, basically works with people who are going through all sorts of issues, and she did put it out, I understand, yesterday to our some of our folks to let them know that he is actually the biological father. So that was all brewing yesterday. We had folks who were up there, like I said, with their dogs. We've had other folks who are kind of in crews or that are potentially going to help, and it just kind of depends on what we're doing and what we're looking for. And we always get in the situation of, are we on the clock paying people to go on our teams, or are we doing volunteer work? And it's just kind of if it's in the county, usually it's on the payroll. It just gets a little hairy as to and we're short staffed, and we're paying overtime here to send people up there, and it's just hard to decide exactly what's the right thing to do. You want to be a good Samaritan, you want to help, and we do a lot of that, but it would be wrong for me to sit here and say we send people every time someone is missing. We kind of wait and see what our roles need to be, and Amber Alert stuff was going off, of course, all over the place. So
we are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us. Davidson County Sheriff Darren Hall's with us. We're going to get to your phone calls in a moment. I just had one quick follow-up question with regard to this missing child in Sumner County. You've handled in the past, or your office has, and your deputies, missing children cases, along probably in partnership with the police department. What is it, and how do you approach it? With a period of time. Right now, the thinking is this child autistic, perhaps wandered away. But as more time passes, when do you start considering the possibility of other options?
Yeah, and I don't have expertise.
Again, general. I know you're not involved in Sumner.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking back as we were waiting to come back on, but I remember, this was a long time ago, I remember our staff, going out searching for Janet March's body. I mean, I'm just going through stories back, and of course the silver alerts, you have a lot of different times where there's people that, I think personally that always worries me when you have someone who is very elderly who may not know exactly how to get back in, very unlikely that foul play is in that situation as much as it is just worry that they're lost and can't get. In the children thing, to me, 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, how can this individual be, alive and functioning, at some stage of just the natural needs for an individual. And so, I guess I always think of it this way. It's just extra sets of eyes, bodies walking, talking, asking in the streets. Our staff, just like everyone else, would like to volunteer and help. That's what we do. We're usually a part of a large team sweeping areas. And, but again, look how big an area. And if you don't have some idea of where you're looking, in some simple version of what you're doing, it's incredibly difficult to find.
And entirely possible that the child could have wandered. But, I'm just wondering, to me, and in my career following this, I just don't believe that a child completely vanishes without a trace and is never found. Okay, meaning on their own. And that's my take, is that the longer, and I'm not referring to the Sumner case, it's still early enough that I don't go there. But I'm telling you, if there's no trace of this child found in a week, or even this time next week, I will have serious questions about whether or not foul play was involved. Because even if the child is not alive, eventually maybe you find, oh my gosh, wandered into the body of water. We found his body. Oh, how tragic. And you pull him, he wandered in there. Or he fell down a ravine and killed himself. Or something like that. But short of finding anything, that's why I think someone was involved to hide a situation.
Well, right. At some point, I'm like you. I don't understand how someone, that is not sophisticated, and I'm talking about in living, in a survivalist or something like that. That's not the case. How are you going to live, and where are you going to live in today's world where, I don't believe you'd have the skills to accomplish that. Therefore, something tragic or bad is going to happen, or it feels like that as the days go by. And I'm like you would think the body would be found if it was a fall or some tragic event in a reasonable area around the house. That's not hard to do. Once that is exhausted, then you have to go to, I think, the next step, which is foul play, and the body is potentially hidden or gone. And I'm just like everyone else. I can't fathom what that feels like if you genuinely don't know what happened to your child. I just can't imagine what that would feel like. On the other hand, it would be very difficult for me to see a 15-year-old child be able to pull off hiding from people for an extended period of time. That's just a very unlikely situation. But I wish and hope for the best. I'm like you. I watch these stories with kind of a parental eye, and then some part of the job I'm in, and then just a citizen who you're sitting there going, man, what in the world?
And when you do go to the idea of foul play, I guess, and I've talked about this in the past, say with the Joe Clyde Daniels case, which in some ways is similar. He was a much younger child, but that what you'll do when you make that transition to maybe looking into the possibility of foul play is then you vet anyone close to, from the parents to the neighbors, to a friends, to the possibility somehow, some way that there is a stranger that maybe picked him up. That's what it is. All options are on the table, correct?
I would say yes. I think the other thing about that is that begins to take a long time. A lot of these cases are years. Look at some of this. To solve, once it becomes a potential criminal activity, everything changes. It is trying to prove and trying to get interviews and trying to get it's years and years. Sometimes before all that, and that's what right now it's trying to hope that the kid is alive and can be saved. That's first. The second part of it is, once you determine or believe it's foul play, everything changes. From lawyers in the middle of it to potential you know, the law enforcement capacity is to prove there was a crime.
So often when there is foul play, it does come back to someone who is close to the child. When there's foul play, and again, I'm not saying that's the case here in Sumner County. One other thing I was going to say, these days so many homes, especially in neighborhoods, have Ring cameras and everything else. Would you imagine part of the investigation is, if the child is said to have wandered off, going and canvassing all the homes, including, I don't know about the home when he left, to see if there's any video of him walking along the road, and how well they have that covered, and whether or not they see him or not.
That, and the other thing is, I don't know his capabilities with phones, but there's so much of that today in the communication systems, and is it completely shut off? Did he have one? Was he using it? When's the last time? Where? Even if it's just him looking on his phone, that's not super hard to figure out anymore. Where is that device? You know, those things matter, and I don't know the surroundings, but it amazes me that really everything in this country is being videoed somehow. I mean, there's an angle to some camera.
You would think there would be cameras, maybe, if he wandered down a road or something. That would be part of it, wouldn't it? You'd go check to see if there's video?
Sure. I mean, and even if the police aren't doing that, the neighbors are worried. You know, they're trying to help.
If I lived next door and I had a Ring camera and I heard this, I would go to my camera and say, well, last night, do I see anything?
That's right. And then you would expect, you know, like I said, not even from a criminal investigation, just the kind of the Samaritan and the families around the community are wanting to say, hey, I found this on my video, or even if they didn't tape it, you know, I saw him walking, or you just think you would feel and hear some of that.
So far, nothing.
Hopefully, yeah.
And that's what we'll see how it plays out. And I hope some prayers that